Periscope tweet out. YouTube timer on. We are live. What's going on, everybody? Wednesday, May 1st. Goodbye, April. It's going to be May. I didn't see any of those memes yesterday. Apparently, I just wasn't on Twitter, I guess. That's a bummer. I usually look forward to that. You a big fan of the Justin Timberlake It's Gonna Be May memes? No?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, you got the It's Gonna Be Me thing from NSYNC tracks. They turned that into It's Gonna Be May. It's a pretty big meme on April 30th that, I guess fell off.
I guess I always stay off social media on April 30th.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Laffy and I talked about Justin Timberlake yesterday, so it feels important to bring it back up.
Someone in chat the other day said I look like him, so that was cool.
That one I don't see.
Neither do I, but I
you know what? I can't even say that. I get it. I get it. It's like the worst version of him, but I get it.
I think I would still like to be the worst version of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to be the worst person from NSYNC.
JC is he went to the same high school as me.
Oh, really? I know nothing about Chris Kirkpatrick, who is definitely the worst.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris Kirkpatrick, if you happen to be in DFS and watching this stream right now, that's going to be really rude to you. I mean, I'm sure you're a sports fan. So, thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope you had a successful Tuesday. Shout out to Garrett Cole, flirting with a no-no. Any interesting thoughts on last night's slate?
No, it was dumb.
Yeah, it's very weird. Very weird.
Just a reminder that baseball, crazy stuff happens, and you really should not be afraid to be contrarian. Like, it happens to me too, where I make my lineups based on my process, and I'm just like, I don't like this because I don't have, X, Y, and Z as much as I would like to. And then it's just trust your process, and crazy stuff happens in baseball. And your big nights in baseball are normally going to be when the stuff that you like really feel comfortable with doesn't work out.
Yeah, it's really weird. And to have basketball and baseball bookend each other and have like just such dramatic differences in the way you play and the way that you roster players. It's really weird to flip that on its head, where you'll have no problem whatsoever with having shares of the worst stack you grade out on, like depending on how the other pitcher is owned and like their actual talent level and salary. The worst team could be the best team, and that's just not the case ever in the NBA.
Yeah.
You don't just opportunity changes the entire equation. Anyway, MLB strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us. Any monthly package you choose, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. So if you want to check us out, now is the time to do it. Content for every sport imaginable. Use the promo code MLB strategy and you can sign up. I highly recommend using it on the all access package so you can at least get a taste of everything we have. After that, brought to you as always on the Strategy Show, on the Deeper Dive, and on the Early Bird podcast. Yes, I said podcast, not article. Yahoo Sports. There are peeps. Dropping the link into chat right now if you'd like to sign up for Yahoo. Highly recommend that you do it through this link. It is very beneficial to us. It will not change your experience whatsoever. And if you use that link, you could use the promo code AWESOMO, and you'll get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. That does not stand for yesterday's star, Rick Porcello, which makes it legitimate this time because he was fantastic yesterday. So I'm glad I made that up. Just happened to be a week early. Yahoo's got 10 max contest, lower management fees, sometimes no management fees. We'll take a look at some of the contests that they have going for today as we work our way through the show. And we'll be touching on Yahoo pricing and our favorite stuff from Yahoo throughout the whole day. But for now, we've got two slates. DraftKings is blessing us with a 5-game early, which makes me happy. FanDuel is doing the opposite of blessing us with a 3-game slate, typical FanDuel. And then we've got 9 on the main slate. So I love split slates, especially when you can get 5 games or more on one of them. Just makes me feel like I have something to do all day.
Yeah. No, I'm already I didn't realize that we had 5 on DraftKings early, so I'm already trying to like restructure my day and run errands in between slates instead of as soon as the show ends.
And really, the only thing that matters today, 3 p.m. Eastern time, Liverpool, Champions League semifinal, first leg. Bring it home, Reds.
Is that European basketball?
You're the worst. You're the worst. No, it's just the biggest sporting event known to man.
Yeah. Well,
just something like that.
we live in America, Josh.
That's fine. We're all on one big planet. And trust me, that tripped me out bad. I've got the space background on me today. Started watching Our Planet last night, episode 2 with my wife. Oh my God. Dude, nature documentaries, I can't do them. They showed this shot of from the moon looking back at Earth. And all you see is like this blue circle and nothingness everywhere. And I got pretty worked up thinking about how we were just like this pinprick in infinity, went down a spiral, started thinking about how our ego is so high that we think we're the top of the food chain. I was just watching like other animals eat tons of other animals, and I just kept wondering who's going to be the animal that eats us. And I hope they're way nicer about it than we are, thinking about like the way we factory farm chickens and just jam them in there. Can you imagine if the opposite happened and we were just all jammed in a barn and then they just skin off, chop everything off, and all of a sudden people are like, I got a dozen buffalo human fingers today. And just for like 15, 20 minutes, I was going to be a vegetarian. I was like, wait, I can only eat eggs. I'll never eat anything else again because we're horrible people. I woke up and came to my senses, but it was a tough stretch last night.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't think you were starting the show like this.
No, I watched some of Barry last night, and apparently that was more humane than whatever you watched.
Yeah, probably. So, anyway, Red Sox and A's early slate. 5.3 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.6 for the A's. It's a 57% chance to win for the Red Sox. Man, YouTube chat is going at me pretty good here. Hector Velasquez.
As it should be.
Yeah. To be fair, I deserve every piece of what I'm getting. You know, some people are just like, that's not bad. And some people are, well, very clearly understanding what's going on. Hector Velasquez going for Boston. Mike Fiers going for Oakland. I have ownership in here right now for DK and FanDuel for this early slate. And even for FanDuel on a 3-gamer, not a lot of love coming to either pitcher here. Essentially unowned on DraftKings. Would you anticipate getting to Velasquez or Fiers at all?
No. I mean, maybe Velasquez, just because he's decent at getting outs and it's a 5-game slate, but I still think there's options that I would rather get to that are cheap enough. No chance I'm getting the Fiers in Fenway against the Red Sox.
Yeah, I agree. Does not grade out well, nor does Velasquez, but it's a really scary spot for Fiers here. Yeah. Hence the 5.3 run implied total.
I guess just to clarify, because I'm still not used to the whole max entry thing, no chance I'm getting the Fiers means no chance I want him in my lineups. He might end up in one or something. But
yeah, I mean, I anticipate getting him slightly, but he's not a guy that I expect to be one of my majorly owned pitchers.
Yeah. No chance I want him. There's 10 pitchers on the slate. He might end up in a lineup or two.
Exactly. Eric S. Josh, Canning wasn't just a guy for 4 innings. No, but I mean, I expected him to go about 4 to 5 innings. So
yeah, that's why I ended up backing off of him. Like I really liked him early in the day, and then the more I thought about the slate, it was just like he's probably gonna throw 5, maybe 6 innings, and he's almost $8,000.
Yeah, I mean, he had. I said somebody mentioned like, what if he goes 7 innings? I was like, that's probably his 95th percentile outcome for.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't thrown more than 82 pitches in a start at AAA this year,
right? And or last, like he wasn't going deep into games last year either.
He's like 22 years old. They're not like
they're not like, oh, now you're here, 120 whenever you want, man. Just let it rip. Yeah, I never expected him to go deep enough in the game. He had from a strikeout perspective, had a really nice outing.
Yeah, and I think that was to be expected. It was just a matter of like what was he? He was really cheap on FanDuel, so I could see it there, but. I backed off pretty hard on DraftKings once I just kind of looked at the slate overall more.
Yeah, I didn't think he would be out there long enough to really accumulate. Anyway, back to Boston and Oakland. In terms of ownership, the Red Sox are second most owned on FanDuel. A's are fifth. On DraftKings, it's Boston to Oakland eighth. So not a lot of ownership going to the A's, which kind of surprises me. Boston chalky, and that makes sense. How do you feel about the Boston bats?
I like them a lot. They still are reasonably priced. It's been really weird with DraftKings like jacking up pricing on everyone lately. Boston's kind of not gotten that treatment. They're at home against the fly ball pitcher and Fires that doesn't strike guys out. They have a ton of right-handed power. So I love Boston.
Ooh, I just got an interesting note from Tom.
Not fired?
No, I'm not fired. Neither of the two messages that he sent me were like, can you please not talk about space? So there's that. Appreciate that. Hopefully you just didn't sign on to the video in time. Don't go back, Tom, if you're listening now. Just assume everything started great. I love the first four of the Red Sox, but as per usual, they're really difficult to get to in bunches because they're expensive and they all play outfield. So you have to stack them up differently. I'll have them clearly because 5.3 runs on a 5-game slate is nice, but I haven't run any early slate crunches. I can say that they grade out as my third favorite stack on FanDuel and my third favorite stack on DK relative to price.
The one nice thing about them is, I mean, you do get, obviously, you have the four outfielders with, Benintendi and Bradley plus JD and Betts, but you do get Devers. They do fill out other positions with Moreland, Devers, and then now with Michael Travis as someone you can roster at second base. So I don't know, because I don't want the left-handed bats quite as much anyway, just because Fenway doesn't play up left-handed power like it does right-handed power. So I'm okay with having a lot of, Betts plus JD, one of Benintendi, Bradley, or neither, and then having like Moreland, Devers, Travis. There's enough ways to stack them that work out that I still think I get there a lot.
Yeah, I didn't want it to come off like they were just impossible to get to or anything. They're just they're way more difficult to stack a 5-man than most teams just because of their price tags and the way that they're structured. Yeah. They lend themselves more to like a really solid 3-man.
Sure.
Oakland bats grading out just a hair behind Boston on DK. Chris Davis continues to be quite underpriced in my opinion. I like the top end of the lineup, and on FanDuel I can probably get all the way down to Kendry Morales, but this is not a great matchup. I mean, the A's are really not set up against right-handed pitching.
And Velasquez really isn't bad at, limiting damage. Since last year, he's thrown 903 pitches to right-handed hitters. He's allowed a .095 expected ISO, reasonable 308 expected WOBA. Not a lot of swings and misses, but not a lot of power against him. If you want to take a shot on someone like Chris Davis, I mentioned yesterday, and it holds true here as well. In tournaments where you're really just looking for outlier outcomes from your hitters, Davis is as likely to hit 3 home runs in a game as pretty much anyone in baseball. And he is not priced like an elite hitter. So that's appealing in tournaments. But as far as, optimal plays or anything like that, I'm not really getting to Oakland.
Okay. Sounds good. Moving on. Royals and Rays. Royals 4-run implied total. Rays 4.5. A 56% chance to win for the Rays. Jacob Junis going for Kansas City. I assume Jalen Beeks is the guy Jalen Beeks is supposed to be the guy that's coming in, evidently. I was really surprised to not see. Oh my God, why can't I remember who's starting the second game? Snell. I was surprised to not see him in the first game. They usually would be more likely to run out the main starter in the first of a doubleheader, but apparently we've got Beeks. So Junis, quite chalky. 52% expected ownership on FanDuel. Yeah, I said it. 37% expected ownership on DraftKings. I liked Junis a lot yesterday. He was a guy that I was anticipating using. Today, I cannot believe that I'm saying this on this early slate. Jacob Junis grades out as my best pitcher on a dollar-for-dollar basis. How do you feel about Junis?
I think it's perfectly reasonable. The other way that I see it, though, is that it's not sneaky, and he's a strikeout guy who also gives up a ton of home runs. You have a Tampa lineup with plenty of power in it, getting a ballpark boost going to Kansas City for power. We actually just got their lineup, and it's got plenty of power. So the problem with Tampa Bay is that Nate Lowe and G-Man Choi both play the same position, and they're both guys that I would want in my lineup. So that makes the stack a little bit tougher. But you have Lau and Pham at the top with plenty of power. You have one of the first basemen at a reasonable price tag, and then you can throw in reasonably priced guys like Garcia or Diaz or whatever. So I do like the idea of getting to Tampa bats as leverage against Junis, even if it's not a full stack. Which I do think a full stack's fine because Kansas City's bullpen's not good behind Junis. But getting to one-offs or mini stacks and hoping that you catch the home runs that he probably is going to give up is, I think, a pretty strong approach here.
Yeah, I anticipate having both things. Junis, and then in my non-Junis lineups, I assume that I'll have quite a bit of Rays. On FanDuel, I'll probably have a Ray in some of my Junis lineups. On DraftKings, will you be using max 1 against your pitchers on a 5-game slate for DK, or would you want to be smaller than that?
If I do, I'm probably going to set it so that it's just Tampa against Junis.
That makes sense.
I don't think there's another pitcher here that I would A, want that much of, and B, would want hitters against him. There's not. No. So Junis is the only one on this slate that I feel like is at a really good price point to where I would get him in a lot of lineups, but he also is a really high home run guy.
Yeah. Any interest in Beeks?
Do you have his DraftKings price in front of you? Because DraftKings and Yahoo,
5,900.
Not really. One, I don't think he's very good. Two, I don't know how deep he goes into the game, and that's not a super cheap price tag.
Yeah. He grades out as my 6th best starter dollar for dollar out of the 10. So that's not great. But if you and I are on the same page, and I assume we're at least going to be close in that Junis and Tyon might be the 2 best pitchers, and they're at 8,500 and 7,800. You really don't need to go dumpster diving because you already have the money. There aren't expensive pitchers on the early.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be getting, I would think, to Tanaka and Rodon over Tyon, but same.
Yeah. Even those guys, nothing too outlandish.
Right.
I don't get the sense that I'll get to much Beeks, and if I do get to more than I expected, I will probably just cut his innings back. He's the type of guy today where I will almost pick his ownership once I see it.
Yeah, I mean, and so if I plug in Junis and Carlos Rodon on DraftKings, it still gives me an average of $4,100 to spend per hitter position. So
yeah, I think you'll be okay there.
Yeah, unless I'm just trying to jam in every Boston bat with really good one-offs too. But yeah, I mean, Beach threw 66 pitches against Baltimore, 75 against Kansas City in his last start. Was really good or not last start, but you know what I mean. Was really good in that one. I mean, it's not like it's a bad play. I don't mind if I get there. It's just not something that I'm excited about prioritizing.
For sure. Rays bats getting quite a bit more ownership than the Royals. Well, maybe not with 30% more. Do you have a preference in bats here? The Royals do not grade out well for me at all. The Rays, a little bit better, but kind of expensive, kind of overlappy in terms of position. I like the Rays a lot more on FanDuel than I do on DK, but how do you feel about this game?
I prefer the Rays, but I do like Kansas City because I like their price tags a lot. And Jalen Beeks, he has talent, he has ability, but he is very, very blow up prone. He's really not put it together in the majors so far. And you actually got some price discounts. Whit Merrifield's down to 4,300 on DraftKings, Mondesi at 46. But then you have Hunter Dozier at sub 4K, Solaris 3,500. There's some pretty cheap power upside here against a guy in Beeks who is getting a park downgrade and who is very, very good at just getting absolutely destroyed.
True. Very true. Favorite bat from this entire game for DK?
Brandon Lau.
I agree. Lau then Mondesi would be my order. On FanDuel, I have Lau, Pham, Choi, Low, which is going to get really annoying for this team, and Zunino, all as basically equal, separated by 0.3% on a dollar for dollar basis. So can't really pick one on FanDuel. I choose all of the Rays apparently. Yeah, right, buddy.
Side note with Lowe being up, I remember I watched the first game that Brandon Lau played, and they said that when he was in the minors with Nate Lowe, he told Lowe that by the time he got to the majors, the popular pronunciation of their last name would be Lau.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really good. If you're playing on Yahoo, Rays bats looking pretty solid again. Really, they're just they're kind of juiced on DraftKings. And that Choi Diaz low stretch of, thank God Diaz has the third base eligibility here. This would be a really weird one for today. Alrighty, moving on. Rangers and Pirates. 4.7 run implied total for the Rangers, 5.3 for the Pirates. 55% chance to win for Pittsburgh. Shelby Miller going for the Rangers. Jameson Taillon, as I mentioned before, going for Pittsburgh. Shelby Miller getting no love. That should come as no surprise whatsoever. I have zero interest in him completely. I would be very surprised if I got to him. He grades out as my worst pitcher on the slate. For the Pirates, Taillon, 7,300 on FanDuel, 39 on Yahoo, 8,500 on DraftKings. Taillon grades out as my second best dollar for dollar option. But what's crazy to me, and I understand, I guess, why it's happening, only 12% ownership. That is the lowest of the 5 most expensive guys on DK. I guess I understand why that's happening. You know, a lot of lefties at the top of the Texas order. This game is in Arlington, which is a very nice hitting environment, but I think Taillon looks way better than what their ownership is giving him credit for. I anticipate this is the guy that I'm going to be most over the field on. I feel like you don't have the same sort of sentiment.
I think that the ownership's intriguing because he is a talented pitcher and it's a 5-game slate and he's low owned. But this is like, if you take all of Taillon's splits, and he's someone that really does have some pretty drastic splits so far in his career, this is like the worst possible spot because he's better against righties. The strikeout stuff's a lot better. He doesn't get hit hard really by lefties or righties, but the strikeout stuff's a lot better to righties. But he's also a lot better in PNC, which isn't really surprising. Now you throw him in the Globe Life against a bunch of lefties who have a lot of power, and it's kind of a scary spot. So I like the Texas bats a little bit more than I like Taillon.
I get that. Has that lineup officially come out yet?
No.
Okay. That could tell a big story. Projected lineup has 5 lefty bats in the first 6 hitters. Mixing that up would be very beneficial. But basically, any lineup that they come out with that isn't what I have in here is probably going to make Taillon look better.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
He's faced 377 lefties outside of PNC since the start of 2017. 18% strikeout percentage, 4.54 xFIP, 324 WOBA, still 0.7 home runs per 9. So that's where he's not getting blown up. It's just that the strikeouts die, and that's really scary against this team.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It does not make me comfortable at all. The only really appealing thing to me now is the fact that he is going to 12% ownership.
Yeah.
On a 5-gamer. I think that talent can win out a little bit more than that. But it'll be anxious to see once we get ownership and everything. I can run some crunches. Well, we have ownership lineups. I mean,
go ahead.
Nah, I meant to say once we get lineups, but I said ownership, and it made it sound weird. Go ahead.
I'm pulling it up now, but if I remember right, Taillon is absolute trash at holding runners too, which is scary.
Familiar to me.
He's 6'5", so I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah,
but I mean that's obviously
shortened him to the plate though, so I could be wrong.
It's possible.
Yeah, I don't. Everything I'm just making it up in my head.
So he graded out terribly in 2017. Not quite as bad, but still bad last year, and so far this year is neutral.
I thought I remember them having him be shorter to the plate with runners on, but
He's allowed 3 stolen bases in 31 innings already this year, so that's the point here being that, not only is there left-handed power, but, guys like Chu, Odor, Andrews, they can steal on him as well.
Yeah, for sure. This will be the most interesting piece of when I run crunches to see how it shakes out, because I'm really not sure how it'll happen. He grades out really well, and the ownership is low. I'm probably gonna get a ton now that I think about it. Where do I have the Rangers? Rangers are 8th for me from a stack perspective. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna end up with like 60% tie on. It wouldn't shock me. We shall see. Okay, so you mentioned liking the Rangers stack, or at least liking the Rangers. What stands out most to you?
Left-handed power and speed, and there's just so much of it in this lineup, especially top and middle. Chu, Odor, Mazara, Gallo, Cabrera are all left-handed guys that have some power, and most of them have the ability to steal bases as well. Throw Elvis Andrus in there as a guy that doesn't strike out and will steal bases, and that's 6 guys that I really like, probably batting in a row. And then if you're, it's a 5-game slate. If you're trying to get contrarian with the stack, I hate the spot for Delino DeShields, but if he's on base with nobody ahead of him, he's absolutely running. So that's another guy that gives you a lot of upside. Then you get probably Jeff Mathis and Logan Forsythe, who whatever. But there's probably 6 guys that I really like here, and then a 7th that has a nice ceiling.
Okay. Yeah, Odor, Gallo, Chu grading out as my 3 best Rangers, but they really just don't grade out all that well for me. A lot of that has to do with Tyoon's steamer projection. He's got a pretty low projected FIP, and I think that's nerfing a little bit of Texas. So I'm expecting to be underweight and very uncomfortable about it. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, unfortunately, continuing to get quite a bit of. I know that I'm going to come in under the field. I know the way that this will break, but they grade out really, really well. Second best team on FanDuel. Actually, that's not true. Best team on FanDuel, because there are only 3 games and not 5, obviously. They are second on DraftKings as well. Top of this order is just, it doesn't even matter which site. Like Frazier, Marte, Polanco, all really cheap. They're 31, 32, and 3K on FanDuel. These guys are just way underpriced, and they're like an average hitting team that doesn't strike out all that often. Against Shelby Miller, I'm in. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't know how not to like them here. Obviously they were disappointing last night, but it's a huge park upgrade for them. The price tags are still really reasonable. Miller's not good. Texas bullpen behind them isn't great. Yeah, there's just, and you have guys like Polanco and Marte are both good hitters, and they're both cheap. And then you get Bell, who is an above average hitter in terms of production, but not so much in terms of power, getting the huge park upgrade. It's just the lineup really, top to bottom, because at the bottom, you probably are going to have Brian Reynolds and Cole Tucker, who both are, obviously just got called up, but project as at least like average hitters with some pop. So it's a really nice lineup to stack, I think.
Yeah, favorite Pirates hitter?
Marte.
Yeah, I agree. All 3 sites too. Pirates not as greatly priced on Yahoo. They don't have any of the crazy budget dudes dropping down to $7, so they're pretty expensive. A little bit more difficult to get to.
I have Marte as the number 1 raw points hitter on the slate. Polanco 2nd. Josh Bell 4th. So I think I'll be getting some Pirates.
Wow, that is quite a bit of Pirates there.
And that's on the 15-game slate.
You had Marte 1?
Yes.
I have him in a virtual tie for first with bets, so not so crazy. Polanco 7th, Bell 8th, Frazier 10th. Looking pretty similar.
If I look at just the 5-game slate, I have 6 or 7 guys from this game in the top 10 in raw points.
I believe it. Marte is number 1 for me in terms of target score per dollar.
So. Yeah, he just does everything too, because he has some pop he can steal. But yeah, I have Marte, Polanco, Bell, Jung Ho Gong if he's in the lineup, Um, Joey Gallo, Frazier, Odor, and Chu all in like the top 10 or 11 raw points on the 5-gamer.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. Diamondbacks and Yankees. 3.9 run implied total for the D-backs, 4.1 for the Yankees, 53% chance to win for New York. Merrill Kelly going for Arizona, Masahiro Tanaka going for the Yanks. Don't forget, this game is not a part of FanDuel's early slate, so this is going to be more of a DK discussion than anything else. Merrill Kelly, 34% projected ownership. Masahiro Tanaka, 22. I'll let you lead with Tanaka.
I'm definitely interested in tournaments. Like I think that I have him a little bit behind Rodon against Baltimore, but he's just got really good strikeout stuff. Like obviously he can struggle with home runs, and it's not the easiest Arizona lineup, but I think that he's just a really high upside pitcher. I have him behind Rodon, but I still like him.
I'm gonna run a crunch right now and see where we end up. I haven't looked at anything yet, but I'm kind of anxious to see how my pitching is going to shake out. Maybe I should not include all of this other garbage that I have in the projections. Sometimes I just forget what I'm doing. How do you feel about Merrill Kelly? He's a guy that I liked in his last start as a pivot to someone who I can't remember was pitching. Somebody that I thought sucked. But 34% expected ownership here. The Yankees lineup is not the normal Yankees lineup. They're probably like a league average at best lineup. They strike out at like a league average rate. Do you anticipate getting to a lot of Kelly?
Yeah, actually looking right now, he's my second pitcher in raw points. He actually, for some reason, is slightly ahead of Tanaka. I'm gonna have to dig into that because I wasn't expecting to see that when I actually looked.
I've got him 2.5 points behind if you want a reference point.
Yeah, so regardless, though, clearly have him grading out well here. Watered down Yankees lineup. He has been pretty good at limiting damage this year. Not a lot of strikeouts or not a lot of swings and misses, but reasonable price tag and a reasonably bad offense that he's going against.
Okay.
He's also been better at limiting damage to righties than lefties, and most of the bats that we're scared of in that lineup are right-handed.
Just refresh the DraftKings crunch. Let's find out how much of these people I'm getting. I hope I'm not terribly shocked by whatever I'm about to do. Okay, there we go. So I have to rename somebody because someone's got a goofy name that makes everything not work. Who's the culprit for today?
Nathaniel Lowe.
It should be covered already, but it is. He's Nate Lowe in Cruncher. Nate Lowe everywhere, except for the place that matters the most. Nathaniel Lowe on Fangraphs, even though he was Nate Lowe on Fangraphs. Is even weirder.
A little bit concerning for Tanaka. His last couple of starts, he's gotten like no swings and misses. His fastball velocity's dropped about 1 mile per hour, which isn't huge, but that combined with him not getting swings and misses, like he had a 1% swing and strike rate against the Angels in his last start. He was at, I think, 8% against Kansas City the start before that. So for a pitcher who we know he has elbow problems, it's just a matter of he somehow pitches through it. That's a little bit concerning.
37% Merrill Kelly for me on my first run, 81% Junis, 44 Tyon, 23 Tanaka, 9 Rodon. So that's a pivot for me. We're about to get to it, but I'm getting to it. I can hold off on it because we'll get to it on the next game. Bats here for the Diamondbacks. They are my least favorite stack of the day. I think that Tanaka is good, so I'm not even likely to target against them. I got 1% Diamondbacks on a 5-gamer, which is kind of crazy. For the Yankees, they are my 7th ranked stack. I got 2% of the Yankees. I have no hitting in this game whatsoever on a 5-gamer. That's terrifying. It's also a really terrible run total.
Yeah, it is. And so the one thing I was going to add was that, looking at Tanaka's recent games and the fact that maybe there's something wrong, there was a chance, obviously, that he could just get blown up here if there is something wrong. But you're not even getting a discount on Arizona bats, at least looking at DraftKings pricing for me. So I don't really see getting the hitters in this game either.
Okay. Legalized just asked in Premium Slack, any weather concerns in the early? Nothing that I'm paying attention to. Nothing in the late as of right now either.
Yeah, everything looks okay to me. It looks like maybe a chance of rain in the Kansas City game, but I don't think that should affect the game. So
I'll be in Slack up until lock, so we can revisit that at 12:30. All right. Fine. Favorite Yankees bet. We got
hang
it.
on, I need to
Sanchez
scroll.
and Torres both at 22% expected ownership. Those are the highest numbers. I have 2% to Sanchez and no Torres. So
Yeah,
wow, Gary Sanchez is 5,200. Of course.
he's my highest projected Yankee bat, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's still not a good value.
Yeah. Luke Voigt's 5,100.
Yeah, yeah. The pricing in this game is
Turns out
pretty
he
great.
is avoidable.
Good job.
Thanks, man. All right. This is the one we need to talk about. It's pretty fitting since it's the O's. 4.8 run implied total for the White Sox, 3.7 for the Orioles, 63% chance to win for Chicago. Carlos Rodon going for the White Sox, David Hess going for Baltimore. Rodon projected for 53% ownership. David Hess is projected for 35.
What?
Yes. So I get it. Both the White Sox strike out a lot. Sure.
Yeah, and he's 4,500, whatever.
And he's 4,500. I got the 6% Hess for right now. The bigger thing that I've got going on, the White Sox bats. We'll circle back to pitching, but I got to get this out. We have the White Sox projected to be 6th of 10 in ownership. 54 total percent added together. I got to 241. I am 5 times the field on the White Sox bat, both from some of these guys have power, and I'd like to roster the White Sox. They grade out as my best stack, dollar for dollar. And the fact that David Hess is getting 35% ownership, I'm grabbing from all of the buckets that I sort my lineups in. So let's start on pitching now. How do you feel about Rodon at 53%?
He's my top pitcher by a lot.
Okay.
So
I can't even ask you why. I'm surprised I don't have him more. He's 4th for me, and I basically didn't get to him. A lot of that has to do with, I guess, the Orioles not picking up some ownership as well, but then he's just grading out behind Tanaka, Taillon, and Junis. Any concerns at all with that ownership?
nope.
I mean, I wouldn't. It's a 5-game slate. People are going to have high numbers, so.
Yeah.
What do you like most here about Rodon?
I mean, the strikeout stuff is really good. It's not a particularly scary Orioles lineup. Mancini, I assume, will be back, which isn't great. But, you have Rodon throwing his slider 35% of the time to righties this year, up from 22% last year. It's a good pitch. It's getting a 20.5% swinging strike rate from righties. Add in that he's throwing his changeup almost 14% of the time. So you're basically getting 50% sliders and changeups to right-handed hitters from Rodon with a 20+% swinging strike rate on both pitches. He's someone that I've always believed in his stuff. It's just a matter of being healthy, and he finally is. So I just think that he's the best option here. The only spot that I would really want to go to on Baltimore would be Jonathan VR, because he can run on Carlos Rodon. So if he gets on base, it's probably stolen bases for him. And then Mancini obviously is just a good hitter, but he's also expensive.
I don't know what to do with Rodon here because he's got a 3.99 Sierra so far this year. It was 5.13 last year, and that's rugged. But he's on a different level of pitching now. First 3 years in the league, mid-ish 20s strikeout percentage, and then it cratered to 17.5% last year. And now he's back up into the high 20s, and I think that is reasonable. Someone for his pedigree, like that last year, stands out as the outlier. And I think that I probably have him a little underrepresented right now. Which kind of concerns me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, I guess, because I have him projected so much higher than every other pitcher that I feel like it's not exactly how it should be. But at the same time, I do think that he's the number one pitcher.
That I don't agree with.
With
but
what?
I definitely think that he's probably not 4th so definitively like I have him. I think he should have more strikeout upside in this spot than I'm giving him credit for. So it's something that I'm going to look at a little bit as we dig in. How much David Hess are you thinking about getting? 35% expected ownership. You're probably over the field there.
Yeah, I expect that's going to come down on the last update.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I don't think I'll get to a lot. I have him projected for fewer points than every pitcher not named Mike Fiers or Shelby Miller.
I have him behind Velasquez, or ahead of Velasquez and Miller and Fiers, actually.
The problem is point per dollar. I have him better than everyone except Carlos Rodon and Merrill Kelly.
I got 6% Hess. I think that's a very reasonable number.
Yeah.
Am I just crazy, or are the White Sox bats not like fantastic in this spot?
They are, but
if Hess is that owned.
If he's that owned, then sure. I still don't think that's going to be the case. But I mean, if he is, then obviously.
Because this is my number one stack.
I mean, I can't put them ahead of Pittsburgh and Texas or Boston. Like, they're 4th for me.
I'm surprised that I can, but I think that's a testament to having David Hess be the starter with a 5.95 projected FIP.
Yeah, I mean, he's bad, and the Orioles bullpen's bad. Like, the upside's clearly there. It's just you're on DraftKings, you're paying the same pricing for Tim Anderson, like for the White Sox, that you are to stack the Red Sox, basically, or more for the White Sox than you are for the Pirates against Shelby Miller. It's just really hard for me to get them ahead of those teams.
Which is craziness to me. And I agree with everything that you're saying. That makes like intuitive sense. I still get them as a better dollar for dollar value than those guys.
Is that
my mind is blown by that?
Like, are you saying your projections say that, or once you factor in David Hess being 35% owned?
My projections say that. If I just sort by target score per dollar, the same way that I would do projections per dollar, you know?
Right.
The White Sox are at the top of the heap.
Okay, yeah. So if I sort just like point per dollar, the entire Pittsburgh Texas game is at the top, followed by like Boston, a couple Boston bats, a couple Kansas City bats, more Boston bats. Wellington Castillo is like, I don't know, 25th or something, and he's the top White Sox hitter on DraftKings.
Oh, man. So I'm going to live and die by the White Sox today. Doesn't make me feel good. But yeah, I don't. Hess would have to be 2% owned in our final update for me to not have the White Sox be my most exposed stack today. 241 total percent. We project 54. 6% to Jose Abreu. I don't care what his price is. On a 5-game slate against David Hess, he should, people need to be rostering him more. 4.8 run implied total, 3rd highest on the slate. I just don't care about price. When push comes to shove, on a 5-game slate, I'd rather overpay for a White Sox team that is unowned.
Yeah, I mean, I get that argument. I agree.
I'm kind of just thinking out loud, not necessarily trying to pitch you or anything.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. Like, they have a lot of upside. They're going to be lower owned because of their prices. Like, those are all really valid arguments. I don't know. It's really tough for me to get there, especially because there's not cheap pitching that I want. And if I did go to someone really cheap, it would be David Hess. So that makes it tough.
That's the thing, though. I don't think you need the cheap pitching. I have 240% going to the White Sox, and all of my exposure is from Merrill Kelly and up, save for 6% of David Hess, who's definitely not in the White Sox lineups. I'm getting to them. I'm getting to those guys, and I don't even have to pay down. 88%, 80% Junis, 40% Tyon, 23% Tanaka. I'm still there.
So are your White Sox stacks like Yolmer Sanchez and Delmonico and Castillo?
I have the whole damn team.
But I'm saying together,
probably.
like you can't have Moncada, Abreu, Anderson, Tanaka, Kelly, like or Junis, whatever.
I mean, it's like I've got. It's easier to just say like I've got 37% Garcia, 40 Moncada, 30 Abreu, 30 Alonso, 44 Castillo, 25 Delmonico. Like it's just everybody. It's whatever will come up. I have 100% more exposure going to the White Sox than I do any other team.
I know, but I'm saying like in those I feel like the individual White Sox stacks are probably like just not very good ones.
Nah, you're overrating quality. I don't know. Let me look.
So like if I put like Carlos Rodon and Jacob Junis in, and then I just put in Moncada, Anderson, Abreu, for every other hitter position on DraftKings, you have an average of $3,400 to spend.
Is that a problem though? That's the bigger question.
Yes.
I guess.
Where are you getting 5 bats that average for $3,400 and don't just sink your upside?
I think we have different thoughts on whether or not that sinks your upside.
I mean, so like, okay, I'll fill it out with like Castillo.
If this were 14 games, I think we're having a very different discussion. On 5, I don't think it is.
So I mean so like I finished out the White Sox stack. So like it's a White Sox stack that's like really good. It got Castillo and Delmonico in there. You have $3,300 to spend on 3 positions. I don't even know that there's hitters on this slate that are that cheap on DraftKings.
So I got Tyon Junis as my pitching combo. I have all the crunches that I ran. Just quickly sorted. Okay. What?
I'll say Tyon makes it a little bit easier too because he's cheaper than Rodon.
So like for Castillo, Alonso, Moncada, Garcia, Delmonico, the first one I see. But I mean, it really is going to be every combination of these guys.
Yeah.
Look, it might die on the vine. That's for sure. Wouldn't shock me. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm surprised, but I think this is just the perfect storm of really bad pitcher, really bad bullpen, solid implied total, and enough power potential that I can get there. They project for a 167 aggregate ISO. Like I'm comfortable with that. I don't know. Yeah, that's just where I'm going to end up being.
Yeah, and I guess
the guys that I have the least amount of are Yolmer Sanchez and Ryan Cordell. So
yeah, so that's good. And I guess also like because you'll have variations with Alonso over Abreu, which saves you money. Castillo and Delmonico are both cheap and good value or reasonably good value plays. So yeah, I guess it's a little easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, a large part of this is basically not having Rodon at 94. Like getting that extra $900 is very helpful.
Yeah, and that's a big deal to me. Like I don't want Tyon over Rodon.
Sure. Look, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Whew, that's gonna be, man. Once we get all of these lineups and stuff, I'm really anxious to see this now because I'm gonna be sweating the White Sox at 5 times the field while watching Liverpool play in the Champions League. Things can either go really, really well or really, really bad in the stretch that matters. So that'll be intense. All right, early slate done. Only took 45 minutes, way too long. Actually, we didn't even talk about Orioles bats. How do you feel? I assume you're ignoring them mostly because of Rodon.
Yeah, VR is my favorite.
Yeah. I got 50% VR, which is...
I think that's fine.
I mean, that's what's going to happen when you also don't have Carlos Rodon. You know,
I'd actually add VR to... I'd said that I could see getting like a Tampa Bay one-off against Junis.
Yeah.
If you have Junis, I think that you can play VR with Rodon because his value comes on the base paths. So like he doesn't have to score a run against Rodon to pick up like 10 points or something.
By the way, 21% expected ownership to VR makes for a really nice cash play at either second or short in DraftKings. All right, you ready to go to the main slate?
Yeah.
Sounds good. On what site, Josh, are you getting those exposures? Never mind. Okay. Cool. I was like, I don't what exposures. Alrighty, main slate. Perfect time. Now that we're on to the main slate, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It is incredibly helpful to us if you subscribe. Helps us to grow, and it gives you the notifications when we go live. Even more important for you. Main slate, 9 games. Doesn't appear like we're going to have any weather issues for the night. So I think we're wide open for 2 separate slates. First game up. Nats and Cardinals. Nats 4.4 run implied total. Cardinals 3.5. A 59% chance to win for the Nats. Max Scherzer going for Washington. Miles Mikolas going for St. Louis. Scherzer, 38% expected ownership on Yahoo, 28 on DraftKings, 18 on FanDuel. It should come as no surprise that Max Scherzer grades out as a fantastic option today. I will pay the freight. I don't think that anybody has the same strikeout upside, but, it's a very difficult matchup. Luckily, the Cardinals lean pretty hard to the right-hand side, but they're just full of good hitters. I cannot wait for you to tell me what's going on after this show.
I'm with you. It's a scary matchup against the Cardinals. But it's Max Scherzer against the right-handed heavy lineup, and the guy's just got ridiculous strikeout stuff. It's not like he's that expensive. He's expensive, but you're not talking like later in the season. We tend to see 11.5, 12K price tags on Scherzer. He's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Look, it's as far as matchups go, this is one of the more difficult matchups he'll have. Like, the Cardinals are good. That's they're not like a major strikeout team or anything like that. It's a tough spot, but he's still 1A or 1B on the slate of high-end pitching talent. So I'm going to assume you prefer DeGrom.
To Scherzer?
Yeah. I know you're a DeGrom guy.
I am a DeGrom guy, and he's 700 less. What his condition to pitch is? Like,
what do you mean?
He hasn't made a start since coming back, right?
What?
He was on the disabled or injured list, whatever, wasn't he?
Just pitched like 5 days ago.
Okay, well, I was out of town. I didn't know what was happening in baseball. I didn't know if he had made a start since he came back.
Yeah. So I was just like, I think, look, when I just assume that I don't remember things and that you remember them better. So he started on the 26th.
Okay,
wasn't great. Oh yeah, I had a lot of the ground that day and it sucked.
Yeah, so swing strike stuff was good in that start, and it was a tough matchup against Milwaukee. Chase percentage was good.
Because that's really the question: who's the preference, Max or DeGrom?
I have Scherzer.
Max with DeGrom with 39% ownership, Scherzer with 28 right now. So essentially, doesn't matter.
I have Scherzer projected for like 1 more point, so it basically makes DeGrom slightly better point per dollar, and it makes Scherzer slightly better if the salary doesn't matter in that lineup.
Okay. I have Scherzer by 1/10 of a point on DraftKings, which is kind of crazy, but I have Scherzer with a higher ceiling, so I anticipate getting to more Max. Yeah, he's really, really good, but both guys have like not great strikeout matchups. How do you feel about Mikolas? He's not normally a guy that I am interested in. He's getting no ownership on DraftKings at all. But at 7,300, I don't see a lot of options that are like massively better than him below him.
Yeah, I basically never roster him. I'd much, 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 much rather go to Max Fried.
Okay.
I'd rather go to Chase Anderson.
I prefer Chase Anderson. Wait, Max Fried's more expensive than him.
He's $500 more expensive.
Okay. I would rather have Mikolas, but that one's close.
Depending on the Mets lineup, I could get to Desclafani.
Again, close. None of these guys are. No one below Madison Bumgarner has more than 5% ownership. So does that change your thoughts on paying down?
I still really like Max Fried.
Okay.
And Chase Anderson's fine.
So you do not expect to get to Mikolas?
I don't think so, no. Okay. I have him as my... Yeah, that's a pretty safe no, I think.
Okay. How do you feel about bats in this game? No one really getting any ownership. Only guy on, well, two people hit double digits between FanDuel and DraftKings. Matt Adams on FanDuel at 2,900. Matt Carpenter on DraftKings 3,800. Both guys in the teens for ownership. Yahoo a little bit different. Matt Adams is $10, so feel free to jam that in everywhere you would like. Carpenter and Yadi Molina both in double digits as well. How do you feel about bats? Either side.
Yeah, not super interested. I mean, Scherzer, obviously, I'm not looking to take hitters against. If I did take one, it would be Carpenter at the cheap price tag from the left side. But 9-game slate, I don't think I'll get there a lot, especially since it's not like we have Scherzer projected for 50 or 60% ownership or anything. On the other side, if I take hitters against Michaelis, I prefer them to be left-handed. He's not been bad against them in his career, but he's been worse against lefties than righties. He has been bad against them so far this season. But again, that's like 250 pitches to lefties. So if you wanted to get some Juan Soto or Matt Adams, I think that's perfectly fine. But, probably not huge priorities in the context of the entire slate.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a preference on any of these guys. Carpenter and Goldschmidt grade out as the best two bats. I anticipate those would be the guys that I'd have the most of, but while I don't like Michaelis, I think that he's at least solid as a starter. So not my spot. Not today.
Yeah, I'm looking to see who my highest projected hitter in this game is, and it's Soto. So that's to be expected.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Followed by Adams.
There you go. Phillies and Tigers. 4.8 run implied total for the Phils, 3.2 for the Tigers, 67% chance to win for Philadelphia. Aaron Nola going for the Phillies, Daniel Norris going for the Tigers. Nola, 47% ownership on Yahoo, 44 on DK, 27 on FanDuel. Nola is the highest owned pitcher on FanDuel, on DraftKings, and on Yahoo. I completely agree with it. He's my third pitcher dollar for dollar, but because of how much lower he is than Scherzer and DeGrom, he's going to show up naturally a bit higher. So I understand why the ownership is there. How do you feel about Nola?
I love him at his price tag. I think it's a far enough gap between him and DeGrom, Scherzer to where you are getting benefits in your lineup. If you save that money, I think there's probably teams that you can stack where you get Nola plus one of those two as well. You're still only spending around $20K on two pitchers, which is perfectly reasonable. It's a Tigers lineup that should have a lot of right-handed hitters. Nola, along with pretty much everyone who pitches for Philadelphia, has better strikeout numbers at home over the last couple of seasons. I just really like the spot.
Okay, sounds good. I don't have anything else to say. The Tigers strike out a ton. They're going to be, every single hitter in their lineup is worse against righties than lefties. And that's incredibly appealing to me. I assume I end up with less than the field, but not by much. I probably am a little bit more interested in him on FanDuel than I am on DraftKings, but I just want to have him here. I can't worry too much about a Tigers team that projects as a slightly less than average offense with big-time strikeout rates.
Yeah.
Phillies bats are a little popular. Any interest there against Daniel Norris?
I mean, they have a lot of scary righties in that lineup. Norris is a guy that I actually like. I like his stuff, and he's someone that I like the roster in some spots. I don't think this is one of those spots against a Philly team that really does drive up pitch counts and, it has a lot of really good righties. But so I would lean towards the Phillies bats. Segura and McCutchen in particular are really reasonably priced. Real Muto as well. Hoskins' price is jacked up, but you have enough like cheap or cheap-ish guys in the lineup that you should still be able to afford him too.
They grade out really well, 1 to 6. Falls off a cliff for Hernandez and out there. Yeah. Andrew McCutchen grades out as my best Philly. I really like Bryce. I really like Hoskins, even at those price tags. You're paying for quality there, and I think it looks that way. I cringe a little bit when I see 5,400 on Bryce and 5,500 on Rhys Hoskins, but sure. Then you just shrug your shoulders and you're like, well, yeah, those are the type of guys that should be priced at that rate.
Yep.
So I can't get too mad about it. There's a ton of upside in those bats. And if those price tags keep them at 6% owned and 5% owned respectively, I've got some interest. I'm not a big believer in Daniel Norris. So
yeah, I mean, in terms of raw points on the late slate, I have Harper 3rd, McCutchen 6, Hoskins 7. So Real Muto looks like he's probably around like 15. So that's 4 Phillies bats in the top like 15.
yeah, I have McCutchen and Harper are 1-2 for me, and Hoskins is 5.
Yeah, in raw points.
Yeah.
You have McCutchen projected for more points than Mike Trout.
Mm-hmm. The benefits of facing a guy that projects with a roughly 5 FIP. Yeah, F. Why am I saying FIP? Roughly 5 FIP, a 4.8 run total, and leading off. Righty lefty too for McCutchen.
Yeah, no, I mean I get it.
Yeah, Steamer has him at a 128 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, it catches my eye too, but just the benefit of the additional plate appearances is massive. Like clearly on a per plate appearance basis, I assume that I would be getting to Trout over Kutch. But
Trout hit 2nd.
yeah. What are they projected for? 4.3 runs?
Oh, okay. Got you now. Okay.
Yeah, so like I have probably like 0.25 tenths of a. Oh, I can't talk today. All that space talk, man, it melted my brain. Like a quarter of a plate appearance more for McCutchen is probably what's making this happen. But if I look at it from McCutchen is my number 1 hitter today. In every metric I have.
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Get him. Yeah, I mean it's about as good as it's going to get for him leading off with this total in this ballpark against a lefty. Yeah. Get it, McCutch. I'm sure you're just going to go 0 for 5 now that I've said this. Yeah, I'm going to end up with a lot of Phillies. Kind of excited about it. They look really good at the top, and I'll happily pay that freight if no one's going to do it. Any Tigers bats for you?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you. Candelario, Castellanos, Cabrera. If those guys ever show up, I don't freak out, but it falls off a cliff after that.
Yeah, especially Castellanos. Like I love Castellanos in general.
I love Mickey because he's 2,700. Like, I don't need him to be 10 years ago Miguel Cabrera, but for 2,700 on FanDuel, that works for me.
Sure, but there are probably like 12 guys in the price.
Oh yeah, I mean he's getting no ownership. It's a revolving door of guys that you can play that play first base at that price tag. He's not unique. Alrighty, Marlins. Ugh. Hosting the Indians, 3-run implied total for the Marlins, 3.6 for the Indians, 58% chance to win for Cleveland. Caleb Smith going for Miami, Corey Kluber going for the Indians. Smith getting about 16% ownership on the 2-pitcher sites, 5% on FanDuel. Kluber, 26 on Yahoo, 32 on DK, 15 on FanDuel. Kind of bummed. I thought that I would get to more Caleb Smith. He grades out really poorly for me today. Kluber, I'm kind of surprised that he's getting to 32% ownership, but I guess that's just a testament of what happens when you face Miami in their ballpark. Right. Talk about either guy.
So both of them, I mean, they both grade out well for me. I have Kluber as my 4th highest scorer and Smith at 5th. The problem is that like point per dollar, I still have them behind Nola, DeGrom, and Scherzer as well. So raw points and point per dollar behind those guys. I have point per dollar Kluber and Smith almost identical. Smith's strikeout stuff is really, really good. The only real argument against him is that we don't have a huge sample size of what he is, but so far in the major leagues, he's been very good at getting swings and misses. So, against the Cleveland team that isn't the scariest offense, I think that Smith's a good play. And then Kluber, obviously hasn't been great this year, but he is facing the Marlins in Miami. And that is enough to roster guys that, have the track record that Kluber does, especially because his price tag has come down. So, again, like I think I get to these guys, but I assume I get to less of them than I do Scherzer, DeGrom, and Nola.
I just don't know what to do with Kluber right now. Would you rather have Corey Kluber or Madison Bumgarner today?
Corey Kluber.
Okay.
I also am probably the biggest Madison Bumgarner hitter there is.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
He sucks.
Oh, do I want to go down this rabbit hole?
By sucks, I mean he's like completely league average.
Not that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's fine by me. Ooh, hold on. Might have an. Ooh, okay. I don't know if anybody saw me having Fantasy Cruncher open on my screen. I have to take a little tangent. Hold on 1 second. But if you do see it, see this little column here with ownership projections already loaded with a nice little orange pro icon. FC Pro is coming, people. Awesemo ownership projections preloaded into Fantasy Cruncher. Randomness feature updated. Pro option available in Fantasy Cruncher. And the big news, drumroll, FC Pro available for purchase on Friday.
Sweet.
So tune in. Don't have any other updates, no pricing or information or anything like that. But yeah, Friday. Keep an eye out. And I'm very, very surprised that I'm not getting no more Caleb Smith.
I mean, I think
Price, I guess, is probably the issue.
the thing with Smith is Nola's price. Like that's purely what it is, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have Nola hitting the target 17% of the time on DK. I've got Caleb Smith at like 2% and change. That'll do it. I ran my DK crunch. Let me just refresh here and make sure that I'm not saying anything crazy. Like Caleb Smith, 67%. Excited for FC Pro. Ownership in there automatically is going to be helpful, that's for sure.
Yep.
Saves me from adding the column, which is not hard. But
I don't really do it in Cruncher for baseball, but in basketball, it'll save me time.
Yeah. That is not at all what I expected. I'm going to have to look into this one. 74% Jake DeGrom, 39% Scherzer. I did not see that one coming at all. 38% to Nola, 12% to Matty Bum Bums. Wow, that's surprising. No? What? 12%. That's so crap. Below the field. Or are you shaking your head at me calling him Matty Bum Bums?
I was shaking. So, because you named him and not Caleb Smith, so I assumed you had more of him than Caleb Smith.
Oh, yeah, 0 Caleb Smith.
Yeah, that's what I'm shaking my head at.
Oh, yeah. I'm fine with that. Favorite Indians bat? I have more than double the field of Indians right now.
Jose Ramirez.
Okay.
Corey Kluber's fastball velocity is trending upwards slowly, so that's good at least.
Yeah. Basically neutral with the field on Kluber. But I'm getting to Lindor, Martin, Ramirez, Jordan Luplow, Roberto Perez. Those are my primaries from the Indians. You're not going to be stacking up much against Caleb Smith?
No.
Okay. That's fair. Anything else in this game?
Nope.
Mets and Reds, 4.1 run implied total for the Mets. 2.9 for the Reds. 65% chance to win for New York. Jake DeGrom going for the Mets. Anthony Desclafani going for Cincinnati. We've touched on DeGrom earlier. $59 on Yahoo, 40% ownership. 10.9 on FanDuel, 25% ownership. 10.2 on DK, 39. As I mentioned 90 seconds ago, Jake DeGrom, my most exposed pitcher as of right now. I have no exposure going to Desclafani whatsoever, but I think that he is functionally solid as a paydown option. Talk to me about DeGrom.
He's really good at pitching.
Yes, he is.
He's when he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. Currently, I know I said that Trevor Bauer will get there, and I think that he will. But he's great. And the Reds, there's not the most strikeouts in this lineup, but when we're talking about guys like DeGrom or Scherzer or whatever, I don't really care. The price tag is more than appealing. I mean, 10-2 on DraftKings is just, it's a discount on DeGrom, really. So it makes me even less concerned about him, his prior injury. The fact he was getting swings and misses against Milwaukee is a really good sign. So I like DeGrom a lot.
Is 74% DeGrom too high?
No, I would. Whatever DeGrom I got, I'm happy with.
Yeah, that's sort of the way that I feel about these kind of guys. I will not freak out. I'll be happy to just get that much. How do you feel about Desclafani? 4% expected ownership right now.
He's just I don't know. I don't really feel like I need to get there. Like the Mets lineup kind of scares me against him. There is a lot of left-handed power, or at least a decent amount, especially if you do get Cano back in there. If they run out a lineup that's more righty heavy, then I would have some interest. But assuming we get their normal lineup with lefties, like he's thrown a little over 1,000 pitches to left-handed hitters since the start of last season, 366 expected WOBA, 233 expected ISO. That's pretty scary against guys like Nimmo, Conforto, possibly Cano. Even McNeil is decent. So not too excited about this, Clefani.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I'm indifferent. Didn't get to him at all. I'm fine with that. Didn't get to a lot of Mets bats. Surprisingly, got to a little bit of Reds. Part of that is DeGrom, I guess. Peraza grades out pretty well for me, and he's just crazy cheap with a really easy way to get to him with dual eligibility. I don't love targeting here, but I don't mind having a little bit of Reds. Peraza, Votto, Schebler grading out best for me.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see how that shakes out as we get closer. Braves and Padres. Braves 4.9 run implied total. Padres 4. 59% chance to win for the Braves. Max Fried going for Atlanta. Cal Quantrill going for San Diego. I got 1% of Fried on DraftKings. I didn't get anything else. Highest exposure on all three sites for either pitcher is 4% Fried on DraftKings. Any interest in Fried now? Yes. I assume the answer is very much yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
His stuff is just really good. It's a matter of him being able to throw strikes, and that is what's kind of plagued him throughout the minors so far. But the pedigree is there, the stuff is there. He has maybe the best he has one of the best curveballs in baseball. His fastball is good enough. Like when you have to worry about that curveball that he throws, his fastball is it plays up. The changeup is fine. Like if he's throwing strikes and getting ahead in the count and being able to work off of that curveball, he's at times like borderline unhittable. Yeah. And at that price tag, I think that kind of talent is really hard to find as an SP2. So the reason that I think I probably get less Fried today than I would on some slates is the presence of Aaron Nola and Caleb Smith at reasonable price tags, where in a lot of lineups I can pair them with Scherzer or DeGrom, and in other lineups I can pair like those two together and get whatever bats I want. So I think that'll keep my overall exposure to Fried down a bit, but I still really like him at low ownership because of the strikeout stuff that he has.
Yeah, I'm just my only concern for Fried is basically the sea of righties that the Padres can break out there. Otherwise, I'm a big fan. I wish that he would go deeper into games. Maybe we'll see that as he gets older. But I'm a big fan. I love when he is right. He's really fun to watch because that curveball is a really cool pitch to see.
That game against the Cubs earlier this year was one of my favorite games that I've watched all season long.
You tweeted out, like, if you're not watching Max Fried right now, like, you're making a mistake, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I didn't get to a single Braves bat as a stack. A little bit of Acuna, but otherwise I don't have anything for Atlanta. I cannot get this team, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do it.
I have Acuna as my second, I have Freeman as my second highest projected hitter. I have Acuna fourth. So those are both things that make me think I get at least to those guys. Not sure how much I can get a full stack though, because you have Ozzie Albies at a really expensive price tag from the wrong side of the plate. Yeah. You have Josh Donaldson, if he's even in the lineup, at a really expensive price tag. So I think it's pretty likely that I end up with like Freeman, a ton of Acuna, and then probably not a lot of full stacking.
Okay. I got a lot of Margot Reyes Machado, which I'm not upset about, but so did the public. So
Machado has shortstop eligibility on DraftKings now.
Yes, he does. We also have Kinsler projected for 37% ownership in this, so I assume that'll drop to 4% as we get closer to lock, as it did 2 nights ago. Yeah. My only assumption is that we're projecting him the lead off, and then he doesn't. But I'll look into that. Any interest in Padres bats here? I assume a little.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, especially because of their price tags, and Fried does have the ability to fall behind in counts and put guys on base. Franmil Reyes is still just way too cheap for the amount of power that he has. Same argument that I made for Chris Davis as a tournament play based on his price tag. Like if you look at the hitters priced around Chris Davis, and you say which of these guys hits 2 home runs in a game the most often, Davis is like right at the top of the list. If you look at guys, below $4,000 and say who hits 2 home runs in a game the most often, Franmil Reyes is right there. He just has massive power. The price tag hasn't adjusted yet. So it's not that I like the matchup. It's just that I like the player. Same thing really goes for Machado. I mean, you're talking about a guy priced around $4,000 now with multi-position eligibility on DraftKings as well, against a pitcher who I do like, but who is clearly, not flawless and freed. So both of those guys stand out to me.
Yeah, Machado, dollar for dollar, is ranked 22nd for me as a hitter. That does not factor in the fact that you can roster him at third or short. I mean, he's got to be one of the more valuable hitters of the entire slate. And if he has that sort of eligibility moving forward, he's got to be one of the more valuable hitters always.
Yeah. Renfroe, if he's in the lineup, is a good play too. If I swear by point per dollar value, a lot of the Padres just kind of jump to the top. Part of that probably is because my projections don't like Fried as much as I do, so that transfers over to the Padres too. But I have Kinsler again for whatever reason projected to lead off as the number 1 point per dollar play that would drop, assuming he's hitting like 6th or 7th. Machado third. Hedges and Myers are in the top like 15.
Okay. Anything else in this game?
No.
Alrighty. Brewers and Rockies, 4.8 run implied total for the Brewers, 4.2 for the Rockies, 55% chance to win for Milwaukee. Chase Anderson going for the Brewers, Antonio Senzatella going for Colorado. I got to 6% Chase Anderson on DraftKings. He's only at 2% ownership. No ownership going to Senzatella. I'm fine getting to Chase Anderson. It's not my favorite spot in the world. It's scary ballpark, but he grades out well enough for a $6,900 price tag. How do you feel about Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I get to these cheap SP2s on the slate, but I think the price tag's just a little bit cheaper than it really should be for him. It's Colorado outside of Coors Field. He gives up some power to righties, obviously. He always has, which makes guys like Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story pretty interesting one-offs or mini stacks. Ian Desmond, I guess you could throw in there too, but against David Dahl and Blackman and Murphy and McMahon, which is obviously like the meat of this lineup, he should be fine. Not the most strikeout upside against this lineup either, but it's just a nice price tag. He's someone that I think can get you 6+ innings and pick up 4 or 5 strikeouts and you'll be fine.
He's got really good stuff. I hope that the Rockies lineup, there's a lot of swing and miss late in this Rockies lineup. If you can get through that first 4, there's a lot of strikeouts 5 to 9.
Yeah. Plus Trevor Story, but with him being right-handed, I kind of downgrade that a little bit as far as the strikeout stuff for Anderson goes.
Yeah, same. It gets offset by the fact that he's good.
Right. Yeah, that too.
There's just as much I'm not as worried about Drew Butera.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit over the field on Brewers bats. I didn't really get to any Colorado bats. That kind of surprises me, but they are very expensive. How do you feel about Milwaukee against Senzatella?
I don't think I really get to a lot of Milwaukee. I don't get to Senzatella either. Their price tags are just kind of, I think, where they should be. Senzatella is not a high strikeout guy, but he's pretty decent at keeping the ball on the ground and not getting blown up. If Yelich is back in the lineup, that would be good, but there are just so many hitters that I like on this slate that it's tough for me to get there. I do have Story and Arenado both in my top 10 in raw points, though. Story 5th and Arenado 8th.
5th and 8th. Probably pretty close for me. Story 3rd. Arenado 11th.
Yeah.
Favorite bat in this entire game?
Trevor Story.
Yeah, me too. Which is crazy. I got 1% of him. Makes it makes me sound disingenuous when I say it, but
Actually, how much Yasmani Grandal are you getting?
31%.
Like I assume him and Shaw probably end up being like my highest owned because of their price tags and or positions. But if I'm just like just favorite bat this story.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge difference between who grades out the best and who gets into your lineups most efficiently.
Right.
And Yasmani Grandal is probably never going to grade out the same way Trevor Story does, even though he's a really good player. But the fact that he plays catcher changes the game.
Yep.
Alrighty. 3 games to go. Twins and Astros. Twins 4.2 run implied total. Astros 4.8. 57% chance to win for the Stros. Martin Perez going for Minnesota. Colin McHugh going for Houston. I did not get to either pitcher. I still don't know what to do with Perez. I think Colin McHugh is solid, but not a guy that I'm looking for on this slate. Are you leaning to either of these guys?
No. Perez's price tag is nice, but 1, I don't think you're going to need it on this slate. And 2, he's facing the Astros, so I don't really feel the need to be getting there. And as far as McHugh, I do think he's good. I love that he's throwing his slider a lot now that he added last season, but he's facing a Minnesota offense that scares me to take pitchers against. And they do have very competent lefties at the top, which can give McHugh problems with Kepler, Polanco, and Rosario in the top 4. Throw in Nelson Cruz as a power bat, and it's just a scary lineup where I can just go to Caleb Smith or Aaron Nola for a little bit more.
Yeah, I can't justify it. I want to pay down for this like suddenly new Martin Perez throwing gas guy, but I'm good.
Yeah,
doesn't seem to be bearing out in the data either. No ownership at all really going to the Twins, and I'm fine with that. It's not something I want to chase. Marwin Gonzalez, unfortunately, 3,300 on DraftKings is a guy that I'll end up getting to, but the key piece here in this game, I think, is the Astros. 7% 11% aggregate ownership on DraftKings. I only got to 4. How do you feel about the Astros bats? Because I would have assumed I got a ton.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty cheap for their upside. Like they're mid 4K bats when a lot of the slate's priced up, but they still just aren't grading out that well for me. Like I have Bregman as my 9th highest projected hitter, Altuve at 12. Like obviously that's good, but it's not great. Springer's down around like 15, 16. I don't think that I will end up getting a whole lot of Houston, which kind of scares me because they are obviously a really good offense. It's not a phenomenal pitcher in Perez, even if we do think he's better than he used to be. So it's scary not to have a lot of Houston, but I don't really think I get to a ton.
I think me not getting there is very clearly showing me how much the weight of leverage in my sorting process is like being like. I mean, I'm not getting to the Astros with any sort of volume. They're not that expensive. They grade out well. The pitcher sucks. They've got a great implied total, and yet I'm still not getting to a ton. And that just is telling me there's no need to bump these Astros up because no one is touching Martin Perez. Whether that's right or wrong, we'll bear out in the data by the end of the season. But I'm happy that I can look at it and understand why it's happening. Because if I looked at this a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, I would probably be manually forcing in a lot of Astros. And now I think I'm in a different spot. So should be interesting. Twins bats for you? Anybody? Kepler, I guess. Cruz.
I mean, they're expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind the spot for the lefties, but I just don't think that they're top plays.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard for me to take anybody else. Alrighty. Giants and Dodgers. Did not need that Dodgers outburst when I woke up this morning and saw they scored a bunch of runs. Felt pretty safe not having a ton there just in San Francisco, but double-digit runs. That'll get you. 3.2 run implied total for the Giants. 3.9 for the Dodgers. 59% chance to win for LA. Matty Bum-Bum's going for the Giants. Hyunjin Ryu going for the Dodgers. I got to 12% Bumgarner on DK. That's about where he's at in ownership on Yahoo and DraftKings. 5% ownership for him on FanDuel. Barely any ownership going to Ryu. 6% on DK, 2% on Yahoo. Is pretty expensive. How do you feel about pitching in this game?
Probably not getting to much of either one. They both grade out as perfectly fine for me, but behind Scherzer, DeGrom, Nola, Kluber, Smith, um, point per dollar behind like Anderson. So yeah, I don't think I really get there. Not looking at bats all that much. I don't mind the Dodgers right-handed power where it's cheap. Kike at $4,000 probably leading off is nice. Justin Turner at 3,500. I don't know where his power's gone, but
Must have been hanging out with Chris Davis.
Yeah, does still have a track record, obviously, being a really good hitter, and he's really cheap. So, I don't mind getting to those guys, but overall, this is one of the least appealing games on the slate to me.
Yeah, I'm neutral with the field on the Dodgers bats. Most of that is Kike and Justin Turner. No part of that should be terribly surprising. I don't really have much of anything coming from the Giants. Having some Bumgarner is really the only thing that I'm interested in here. It's really hard to want to target offense in San Francisco.
Yep, especially on a slate like this where there's a lot of spots that we do want to target.
Yeah, it's a really tough sell. Turner went yard yesterday, apparently.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I got nothing here. Yeah, unappealing game. Final game of the day. Late night hammer. Angels and Blue Jays. 4.3 run implied total for the Angels. 4.2 for the Jays. 51% chance to win for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Felix Pena going for the Angels. Marcus Stroman going for the Jays. I have no ownership to either pitcher. They both grade out really poorly. I do, however, have a ton of Blue Jays bats, and I think that I'm going to be really nervous about it after you start talking about these teams. But talk to me about pitching, I guess, to start.
Not getting to either pitcher. I'd rather roster Chase Anderson than Felix Pena at basically the same price point. I like Stroman as a pitcher. He does a really good job of just being a good pitcher. Strikeout stuff isn't the best, mostly because he's fine getting ground balls instead of strikeouts. But it's also an Angels team that doesn't strike out. And you're talking about Stroman at a price point right around, Smith and Nola and, Bumgarner. So I'm just not getting the pitching here. I don't expect to get to much hitting either. Like I have Trout as the number one hitter on the slate in raw points, but I think that's just always the case.
Yeah.
And it's, not the best point per dollar option. I respect Stroman a ton. On the other side, getting to some of the Blue Jays, I think is fine. Like I have Grichuk as a really good value. I have, Smoke is reasonably priced. So is Guerrero. But outside of those guys, who exactly do you want to get to on this team?
Well, I can answer that because they are my most exposed hitting stack. This one's different than the White Sox. I have a lot of them, but it's what?
I said no kidding because this one makes even less sense.
Makes even less sense. Why does it make less sense?
Because it's the Blue Jays in Los Angeles, and you just said they're your highest owned stack.
I did. So way over the field on Sogard and Galvis at the top. They are not great hitters, but they are afforded opportunities. Grichuk, Smoke, Guerrero in that core in the center, very cheap. Grichuk 3,900, Guerrero 4K, Smoke 4,400. I like all of those price tags. They grade out as my three best Blue Jays. I have everybody. The lowest I have of anybody is Teoscar at 8%, Grichuk to 26. It's just they've got the right combination of balance in the lineup and ease of fitting pieces together that I think that is the reason that I'm getting to most of the Jays. And Pena grades out really poorly in Steamer, so that's bumping them up as well. Yeah.
I mean, I have Grichuk as once Kinsler stops being a leadoff guy, probably my top value hitter on the slate. So
he's pretty much that for me constantly.
Yeah. So I'm with you there. That's about it.
They've got a lot of power, and it's just it's odd because it's not at the top of their lineup. Weighted ISO 182. That's really high for the team.
Wait, you said Toronto has a lot of power?
Yeah.
I mean,
Grichuk, these are just projected ISOs from Steamer for these guys. Grichuk 240, Smoke 217, Guerrero 211, Tellez 196, McKinney 184, Teoscar 193. That's a lot of power in that stretch.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, you can't get
for not a lot of price tag.
Yeah, but you can't get Smoke and Tellez together, which makes it really hard to stack them. Yeah, I mean, I like the Grichuk Smoke Guerrero mini stack.
Okay. I mean, it's not like I get really excited when I see that I have 17% Freddie Galvis or 17% Eric Sogard. I mean, those aren't like exciting things to me, but I do think that it's a piece of DFS that goes underlooked in baseball. Like hitters that you wouldn't normally want that hit at the top of the order.
Sure.
Probably it could be misrepresented. Something that I'll look into on FC Pro, doing some lineup study. Be able to tell that a little bit more. I don't know. Go Jays. Late night hammer. Anything else in this game?
No.
Get to the Jays, people. Get there early. $15 for Randall Grichuk on Yahoo.
Yeah, that's a really good price.
I assume he's number one. No, actually, he won't be. It'll be Odor, I'm sure. Oh no, Odor tumbled. They must have moved his price. Or is that early slate?
We just got the Rangers lineup.
We did?
It is worse than I expected for Tyon. Danny Santana in over Logan Forsythe, so you got more lefty speed.
Great. Franmil Reyes is my number one dollar for dollar play on Yahoo today.
What's he on Yahoo?
10.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez is also 10.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we've got McCutchen is third for me. He's 18, and then Jose Peraza at $7. But yeah, Jose Ramirez at 10. Shouldn't really hesitate to get that into any style lineup you're playing. Cash, GPP, something that people just created today.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez works at $10.
Yeah, alrighty. I'm trying to get mine switched over to see what I have, but you know how that goes.
Dan Riddle, FC Pro going to be included if you're already an FC member. No, it is not. It will be a paid add-on. All right, for the rest of the day, Lofty will have the deep dive out in the early morning. Deeper dive from 5 to 6. Live before lock, myself and Jake Hari, I think. No, myself and Chris Spags, actually, from 6 to 7. And then tonight, 9 p.m., Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin, talking Wells Fargo Championship. PGA is coming to my state, hanging out in Charlotte this weekend. So tune into that if you want to get your live before lock golf takes. Anything else?
Nope.
All righty, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Screw Adam. He's not important in this at all. I'm going to drop the link into the channel once again for Yahoo. If you want to join us, please use the link. It will help us out tremendously. Won't change your experience. You can use the promo code AWESEMO. Get up to $30 in YSRPs. Yahoo Sports rewards points. And I don't know. Try to be nicer about eating your animals. Call back from the early spot. Best of luck, everybody. We're out of here.